One of the most contentious elections in American history, and Vice President Joe Biden emerges victorious. We'll dive into the lessons that should be learned from this election season in this episode of The Discussion. So let's be honest, this has been a crazy roller coaster of an election. At my workplace, you could actually feel the tension over the last few days on both sides of the political aisle. A lot of Americans have been emotionally invested in this election, including myself. As I said in a previous video, I voted for Donald Trump, and I still believe that his record will be looked at by historians 100 years from now who have no emotional ties to this election, and they will say that he was one of the most effective presidents in American history. Now, you may disagree, and that's okay. But on a deeper level, what are some of the lessons that can be learned from this election? I like to be as reflective as possible in moments like these. So here's a list of my, I guess you can call them like glows and grows. So let's start with the positives. All right, so glow number one. More people turned out in this election than in any election over the last 100 years. So according to the Washington Post, this election has turned out the highest percentage of voters since the presidential election of 1908. So this is actually a good thing for our country. In order for a republic to thrive, citizens must be engaged in the electoral process. Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump received the first and second largest number of total votes cast in any presidential election in history, respectively. My hope is that Americans will not revert to becoming complacent in future elections. Glow number two. As of right now, we have a divided government. Now, what do I mean by divided government? The House of Representatives and the executive branch will both be led by Democrat leadership. However, the Senate will most likely be led by Republicans. Believe it or not, this is actually a good thing. Divided government acts as a buffer, filtering out extreme legislation that can cause lasting damage to American institutions. This is why the stock market has actually been doing so well over the course of this past week. Investors understood that no matter who wins, there would be divided government. This invites cooperation from both sides of the aisle, and for this, we should actually be thankful. Glow number three. America's still standing. Many of us will wake up on Monday, go to work, take care of our kids, and live our lives in pursuit of the happiness that is enshrined in our Declaration of Independence. The American way of life and the American dream is still very much alive. Those who believe in the beauty of their dreams and actively pursue them will find that they are still within reach, because America still remains the greatest country in the history of the world. Now let's talk about where we need to be a little bit more reflective. So grow number one. We're still very much divided as a nation. I'm not sure if it's social media, the mainstream media, academia, or the breakdown of the family, and maybe it's all of the above, that have actually contributed to the dividing nature of our country. Abraham Lincoln once famously said, "At what point then is the approach of danger to be expected?" I answer, if it ever reach us, it must spring up amongst us. It cannot come from abroad. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. Lincoln understood that the destruction of America, if it ever occurred, would come from within. My fear arises from the fact that political debate is sprinkled, even at the highest levels of media, government, and academia, with vitriol and arrogance. I watch on television and on my social media as friends and family mock and degrade each other over politics. This is not the best path forward. I know some will point to different actors and institutions as the origin of this division, but the change must start within us. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "We but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change." You see, we need to start looking within, at our own insecurities, fears, anger, and find a way to deal with it. If we don't, I'm afraid that we will continue projecting these negative attributes onto others, and this is a dangerous place to be. So before you post something on social media, ask yourself, will this add fuel to the fire or will it add water? Am I building up or am I tearing down? What is my motive for posting or saying this? Maybe if we ask these questions of ourselves, we can start bridging some gaps and actually become catalysts of unity rather than sowers of division. Grow number two. Our election system needs some updating. No, I'm not talking about the Electoral College, which I believe is an ingenious election system. I'm speaking about methods that will create faith in our election system. Being the country of Silicon Valley, I would hope that we can create systems that are both secure and efficient. The lack of transparency in our election system feeds the narrative of corruption. We should all want our elections to be free from fraud and the perception thereof. This will prevent the undermining of our faith in the electoral system. These measures should be debated now and then implemented in our upcoming elections. And grow number 3, our faith is in the wrong things, and I think this is the most important. What happens when our country moves away from Judeo-Christian values? What happens when there's no agreed upon standards of what is right and wrong? I believe we're beginning to see the fruits of a country that has slowly moved away from the biblical truths that have been the foundation of this country since its inception. President George Washington warned us of the importance of faith and morality in our system of government when he said during his farewell address, "Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. Reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principles. In other words, it would be foolish to believe that a nation such as ours could remain standing apart from morality, which only comes through faith in God." God said of Israel, and the same applies to us, "Now if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you will be my treasured possession out of all the nations, for the whole earth is mine." I know some of you will downplay the importance of faith in society, but let me put it another way. If we do not have an agreed upon standards of values in America, how can we truly know what is right and wrong or good or bad? A house divided against itself cannot stand. My hope and prayer is that as a nation, we will once again recognize the importance of faith and religion in our society, and that we will allow these timeless truths to be the guiding light of our own lives. The psalmist wrote, "Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join with mockers, but they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit in each season. Their leaves never wither, and whatever they do, they prosper." I hope this helps bring some clarity during this time. I'll get into the politics of everything that's going on in my next couple of videos. So like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notified of new content. And God bless.